Welcome to Always Ageless. I'm your host, Valerie Van De Zilver. I'm a senior home coach. I'm a senior transition advisor, and I am here to guide you through the sometimes overwhelming world of aging for both you and for your loved ones. And I'm your advocate for making sure that this chapter of your life is the richest, most empowered one, and actually could be the most enjoyable one yet. I've spent more than 35 years walking alongside families through some of the most emotional, complicated, beautiful, and yet difficult decisions of their lives. And the question I hear more often than any other from grown children, from the seniors themselves, from the spouses, the siblings, the grandchildren, is some version of how do I make sure the people I love are okay? How do I keep them safe, connected, and still happy themselves, even if I live on the other side of the country and I don't see them? Well, today's guest is someone who's dedicated her entire career, 35 years plus in healthcare, to answering that exact question. Michelle Bianco is a strategic healthcare leader who's now a part of an extraordinary company called Arlow. And Arlow, I have to tell you, is one of the most promising technologies I've seen for supporting older adults and the families who love them. It's much more than just a name, it's actually an entity that's designed to help you and the ones that you love. Now, I know that some of you are driving in your car and you're thinking, oh, Valerie, you're just going to talk about another app that's going to solve aging. No, 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 I'm not. Turn up the volume, roll up your windows. I am going to tell you, though, that there is a thoughtful, clinically grounded tool that may give your mom and dad or you more of what matters, more independence, more confidence, and the feeling that somebody has got your back. Welcome to today's show, Michelle Bianco of Arlo.
Thank you so much, Valerie. It's great to be here.
We are so excited to have you. When I first read about you and your company, I knew that that our listeners and our viewers would want to know more about Arlo. We do hear so much about technology, about all the new apps and all the new things that are coming out. And every company says, of course, that they have the best product. But this seemed a little bit different, and I wanted to hear from you. And also, I know that you and your co-founder have worked together before, so I know that you come into this having a background of not only technology but taking care of people, and that's what I thought was very interesting because a lot of people come into this and they're tech people, but they really haven't had the experience one-on-one, the bedside experience, so to speak, or in the living room experience. They haven't been on the phone with the people like us who get calls in the middle of the night and their parents fell and they don't know what to do. So I know that you bring an added feature to this product and to the experience in helping families. So, Michelle, you have spent 35 years, over 35 years in healthcare, and most people in that field burn out long before then. So, what's kept you in it and finally led you to focus on working with older adults?
Oh, well, thanks. It's been a wonderful and rewarding career. I actually decided I wanted to go into healthcare when I was in sixth grade. So I was very
Oh,
purposeful in choosing the career of being a physical therapist. And I worked hard to volunteer to get that experience so that when I would apply to college, I could be very deliberate and that decision making. I spent over 12 years in physical therapy, providing that direct clinical care, and then had the opportunity to go into consulting. So I spent several years in consulting itself, really helping to drive improvement in clinical outcomes. And I really enjoyed that change into consulting. I had more of an impact on many more people. And then I had an opportunity to go into med device and med technology. And that's where, as you mentioned, met Chase later on in my time with med tech.
so
It
let's
has been
just
a
interrupt
great,
for a second. So tell people,
sure,
tell our listeners and our viewers, what would med technology actually be on a day-to-day basis?
sure.
What is that like?
So med device is the company that I worked with was with knee and hip implants. So I had the
Oh,
opportunity to really work with not necessarily the implants as they were made, although our company did that, but the way in which patients received care for that hip and knee implant. And that was using my background. And we did that not only in the United States, but across the globe as well for joint replacement care, and making sure that was not only in the hospital, but in the physician practice, as well as in ambulatory surgery centers. Great way to see the transition of care over many years. In med tech, that's really looking at the way technology can apply to patient care. And we looked at a patient care engagement platform. And that was helping the way in which patients recover from joint replacement, not only prepare, but also recover from joint replacement care. And that's where Chase and I worked together as well. So we took all of the clinical processes, all of the education that you have, and that was distributed through a technology to really simplify and have predictability with the outcome for joint replacement. So that was another unique experience. So I feel like while I've spent a long time in healthcare, my experiences along the way have been dramatically different. And that's why, as you mentioned, many people burn out. I've been energized and engaged the whole time because my experiences have been different. And the people along the way have really afforded me that opportunity to learn and grow and continue that engagement. So it's been an exciting career.
I have to ask
So,
you because so many
yes.
people, especially now our age, although I don't know that age is an issue, are getting knee and hip replacements. My family members, my best
Hmm.
friends, and so I have to ask. Certainly, technology has changed in that. I know that there's been a lot of advancements. It's easier, it's a faster process. But is the recovery any different? Is any of that, that you developed as far as working with people as they recovered from it, has any of that changed just because of the
It
product itself?
it has changed. I would say the whenever I first started physical therapy, and this is really dating myself, but you had a 10-day stay in the hospital,
Right, yes.
and now we're seeing patients go home the same day. It's hours of recovery, but that doesn't mean the overall time to completion of your recovery is significant. You're not done at that point.
No,
And I
I'm
think
seeing
one
that.
of the biggest challenges that I've seen from when I first started to even nowadays is that this isn't like a typical surgical procedure. You have your gallbladder removed, you go home and you recover. The surgeon does most of that work. The surgeon has a very specific purpose, and his skill is absolutely required, and the implant itself is absolutely part of that recovery process. But I think most people don't always realize going into it is how much work they have to do to have that ultimate outcome. They have to prepare well, whether it's nutritionally, physically, mentally, and then their output in their recovery really helps determine that outcome for their recovery process. And I've seen great success with the more that you prepare ahead of time, the more that you're diligent with your exercises, and the support you have surrounding you leads to a really good outcome. Outcomes are tremendous right now, and it's a wonderful procedure. Highly recommend.
Yep, I hear that. I hear that. I have a brother who just had one and a best friend who's about to have one. And interesting, and not to take away from our show today by any means. But I have a mom who's 106 who could use a new knee, but they won't give it to her because of her age. And it's not
Yes,
so much that the equipment itself wouldn't work, but they're just concerned about the surgery process and her recovery. So I
right.
guess there's always some limitations, but who
Timing is
knows?
key.
Maybe if she lives another couple years, might be possible.
Bless her. Yeah, timing is key for sure to
And
making
it
sure that
seems
you
that she
can.
doesn't have any chance of leaving us anytime soon, so maybe we'll have
Goodness.
another conversation. So, Michelle, so when this changed, and you
Yes.
got into this field of the aging adult, so to speak, was there
Yes.
a family or a situation that brought you into this, that kind of shifted everything for you?
It was an opportunity. So we had the opportunity to. Chase was became the CEO of Arlow, and put a call into me to join the team. And it was perfect timing. And I've always been mission driven, and hopefully you even heard that already through
I've
my
seen
my
that
career.
about you, yes, yes.
So I needed a reason to say yes. As we talked about what this company was going to be, it was probably a 30-second decision in my mind. It was a very easy yes. Not only did I bring the clinical background that made it an easy yes, but it was also the personal experience that I had as well. Well, I have the good fortune to have a mother in her early 80s doing extraordinarily well medically and physically. I unfortunately lost my father a few years ago. He had some medical issues that he hid really well, but my mother did all of the caregiving for him. So he relied on her, and he had a tremendous spirit, did really well because of my mother. But my husband's family, his parents both in their later years really had physical and medical challenges. And watching and supporting his family, as my husband is one of 5 siblings, the transition that they had to go through and the moving from one home to another, the logistics of caregiving, and what that does on a very loving and capable family, the medication, the adherence, the refills, the process, all of those logistics, all of the physical processes of just finding the right caregivers. Then you have the bills, the all of those logistics with insurance. It is taxing and it is challenging. And just understanding the care coordination and the multiple appointments and the transportation processes. And I watched his family coordinate that week after week, and it was mostly by text.
Yeah.
And very important life decisions occurred in a text thread. And we were lucky to
In
have
a group text.
And some of them were
Which everybody
one-off.
isn't always right, but everybody always isn't included in the conversation every minute either.
That is correct.
It's a bit complicated text process.
It is complicated.
Yep.
And, care coordination is complicated. And big decisions are made that way. And it's hard to have all of these decisions. And it's a really close family. And when we made the decision with Arlow to move forward with a lot of these processes, you have a lot to reflect on with the tremendous loving work that each of us are coming back from with family experiences. So I have the family experience, and others within Arlow have their own experiences. And then we've reviewed 300 different companies within our market space. And then we looked at meeting hundreds of interviews with caregivers, family members, older adults themselves, and tried to understand what is currently working. What are the pain points? What are the challenges? So it wasn't just on clinical background. It wasn't just on our own lived experiences, but it's also on hundreds of real people going through the aging and caregiving process to help us understand what is out there today, what is missing. And we always asked everybody, if you had a magic wand, what would you do today? And that's how we built Arlow. And we're building it and improving it every day.
And it's and the guilt that comes also from not knowing, and I'm sure you found this to be true, that really the hardest part about all of this for us is the unknown. We don't know. We don't know.
It came up so much in terms of how do you make those decisions? As we went to build Arlow, and Arlow has a conversational AI as part of the product. And I think most people go through life Googling answers. And we're so lucky to have that now as compared to before.
Sure.
But when you Google doesn't know you. You're not sure where Google's gathering that information. But with Arlow, because we have purposely built it, purposely designed and curated the clinically backed information, we are providing information, not necessarily, we are providing it when you ask it, but also learning about the user so that we can give proactive guidance as well as clinically validated information so that it helps support you when you need it. And that way, you can provide information that supports the end user, whether it's the older adult. But to the point that you just mentioned about the caregiver, this way you can provide information that allows you to be more confident in your decisions. And that's a really important aspect of Arlo. Reality is different based not necessarily on age, but it's based on your condition. So it's hard to really follow and really what to expect based on a caregiver and your family, or as an older adult. You don't know what the 72 look like. For your mom specifically, 106 for her might also look like a 65-year-old for some people, right? A 65-year-old could be vastly different if they have a lot of comorbidities, and they may have some real physical challenges on top of that. You really can't
And
predict
yeah,
that.
that happens. You just don't know. For example, she's in a place where a lady came to her and said, "I have to move because my daughter's investment isn't going the way that it used to, and now she's losing money and she can't afford to keep me here. So now I have to go somewhere." Has nothing to do with the mom's physical condition.
Right.
Right? Or things like that happen, or someone says, "I
That's
have
right.
to move because," or we had a caregiving company for mom, and then the caregiver got a job as a nurse, which bless her heart that she was able to advance herself, and then we had to find and start all over again, and mom didn't find anybody she liked, and you just don't know. You're exactly right. Um, it's just the unknown, and we've interviewed people and they've all said, again, we don't know how much money it's going to be. We don't know how long this person has to. We have money for mom for a while, but we don't have enough money for another 10 years. And then you have this as the other side of this is, of course, the spouses who say, wait a second, when I married you, I didn't buy into this.
That's
Right.
right. So you have, no one knows what is going to happen. Um, and I think those are things that really leave the whole family in a position, if you're not having those conversations early, how do you plan for the future?
Sure.
And I think those conversations are hard. So, for those who have not had those conversations with the family, I think that's another benefit of Arlo, because those conversations are private and secure. And we have the opportunity within Arlo. One of the things we wanted to solve for that other applications haven't is that many of those other companies are solving for just the older adult or just the caregivers, where we've solved for the circle of care so that you have that opportunity to have connection, but it's all role based access. So your conversations would be separate and distinct from your mom's. So she can ask those types of questions that she might not feel comfortable asking you, but she still needs to understand what happens next or what insights she could gather from them. And I think that's really important because some of those questions are tough. And where do you go at 2 in the morning when you're trying to learn some things? How do I bathe mom? How do I help support mom whenever she needs to be able to help cut vegetables, but she can't stand very long? And she
Yeah.
wants to be part of making dinner. Those are really good questions. If you
Yeah.
don't have the background, how do you do that? Arlo can
Yeah.
help.
Good questions. So before we dive into what Arlo does and these things, let's take
Mhm.
a little bit break. Let's step back for a minute.
Sure.
Describe to our viewers and our listeners, tell us about Arlo, but describe it as I know you can because you've been through this with your own family. Describe it the same way as you'd explain it to my mom or to your mom who are not tech investors.
Sure. So Arlo is built to support older adults. It's also to support the circle of care, so family members. And we also have the capability to support employers. So if you need this to help at work, we'll talk about the older adults. What are some things that Arlo has the capability to do? So we are built to ensure that you can do some daily tasks. We have a conversational AI, so you can ask it questions about anything. We also have the ability to add reminders. So you have a calendar, you have medication adherence, you just upload a picture of your pill bottle and it will put all of that information in, making sure that you can add refills. Arlo will remind you of that. And if you don't pick up your refills, it's your daughter who does it because she's in your circle of care. It can make sure that that gets put on her task. So because we have care coordination built in there as well, that's also part of Arlo. The other thing that we learned is documents are really important. So how do you make sure that your advance directives are adhered to? How do you know that, like, your mom's what your mom's advance directives are? Because again, that's not always a conversational topic at the dinner table.
No.
So mom can upload those, or you can upload those for mom. Those are really important things. Unfortunately, those conversations happen at a point of crisis. And the last thing I want to do is leave my mother's bedside in an emergency and go home and look in a file cabinet. If I even know where that document is, I want to make sure I honor my mom's wishes. But if I don't know where those are, how do I even find them to make sure her wishes are honored? So you have the ability to upload all of that information, whether it's an insurance card, it's advanced directives, any document. And what's really unique about Arlo is that you just scan the document, it uploads it. And because we have AI built into Arlo, it reads it, it summarizes it, and it files it for you. So you don't even have to say, this is my advanced directive. It will automatically upload it for you, and it'll store you all HIPAA compliant. All of that information is role based. So if you don't want the daughter-in-law to see it and she's in your circle of care, you don't have to give that to her. All of that is role based for you.
So what you're saying is that you can set up files, so to speak, right? Or
Yes.
folders, so to speak. Think of Google Drive, right? So folders, so to speak, where you can say this is this, and these are the people who have access to this folder. And because it has
Arlo does that
AI,
for you.
and you scan something, and it sees that it calls it an advanced directive, it knows that, and
Yes.
it goes into a document file for that.
And then if you have access to it, Valerie, you can say, what are mom's advanced directives desires? And it'll tell you. So
Okay,
now
that's
it can know
powerful.
the information because it's been stored in there, but only if you have access. If that daughter-in-law, who you said can't have access to it, she can't ask any questions about it. It won't give any information about it. So not only can
Okay.
she view it, she can't ask any questions about it either.
Right.
So it's
And
really helpful. So think
yes.
about mom goes to the emergency room. Where's my wallet? Where's her insurance card? Now you pull up the app. There's an emergency. There's a insurance card available in there. There's a list of all of her medications because you've already uploaded those. Now you don't have to fumble through for a sheet of paper. And now you have the advanced directives all up there. No more
Okay.
fumbling.
So how does a typical day go with someone who uses Arlo? What does a Tuesday look like?
So they would look into their app to find out what their day is. You might say, I want to walk my dog at 10 a.m. So Arlo has already slotted in at 10 a.m. there. You might want to have Arlo ask for a recipe. Like, it'll give you a recipe, but it also knows that you're dairy free. So it will only give you recipes that are dairy free.
Right.
It might also say, I haven't heard from you lately. Are you doing okay? So it'll check in with you if it hasn't heard from you. If
And
you
so
happen to mention,
it speaks to the patient, the customer, the older person, the mom.
yes, it can send notifications. You can text, or you also hear Arlo. The other things that we have built into it is about proactive support. So say your mom who has knee pain starts to say, I'm feeling off balance. Arlo will start to say, when do you feel off balance? We have all this clinical validation process built into it. So Arlo will go through some questions asking about physical environment, whether or not she feels weak, what shoes is she wearing, asking if she wants to do a safety assessment in the home, because it would already know if she's in her own home, if she's in assisted living. It can do all of that. And then it will offer not just to do that assessment, but what Arlo is about is systems of action. So it just doesn't ask for information, it provides you with insights to take that next step. So after it does the assessment, let's say your mom was in her own home, and as it does this assessment, it finds out mom doesn't have a handrail. Well, your mom can't install a handrail by herself, probably, right?
Probably not.
So it would say, would you like me to find you a handyman in your area that could help do this for you? So it takes that next step and then serves that information back up. So you can see how Arlo is different than just Google. Google, you would have to search for reasons I'm off balance. Then you have to go search for all the other things that you're trying to get to, where Arlo knows you and personalizes that experience through conversation, turns that experience into insights, and then turns it into systems of action. That whole process is clinically designed for the older adult. Now, on the caregiver side, what we have done is really work to make sure that we are giving information that builds confidence in decision making. On the other side, we want to make sure that we are reducing the stress and burden on the caregiver.
Yes, we need to do that.
Yes. So we will serve resources up to our caregivers based on whatever challenge and stage of caregiving they're in. Because maybe you're just providing some light house support, or maybe you're in the thick of things, really working to have somebody in your home because you're taking your mom into your home. And that's a different level of caregiving than just doing light house support. So we'll give different resources and support at that point because we know the person.
Okay, so let's say my mom as a caregiver comes 3 mornings a week.
Yes.
What does Arlo do for that caregiver? What is what is the advantage to having Arlo for that situation?
So if you have added that caregiver to the circle of care, that caregiver will maybe only have view access to an emergency plan. So she'd be able to access all of the emergency contacts. She might be able to get a nudge if your mom is starting to show some less signs of loneliness, and might give your caregiver ideas of things that your mom has already said, here's her 5 hobbies she likes. It might be good to play a card game with mom today. So it'll give them insights on what to do to help support your mom.
Certainly, I can see where that would be an advantage.
Yes.
Or they could, or maybe the siblings who are in other states could install, like enter messages or games or something in there.
So we also have information where that, I think that's the other benefit, is that with somebody being out of town, they can start to watch that mom's missed 3 medications today, or this bill is due. They can help with the role that makes most sense for them, and that'll be available within Arlo also.
Okay. All right. So how does Arlo help? Let's just get right to it. How does Arlo help reduce the guilt of the siblings or the family members who can't be there all the time, who just can't possibly be there all the time, can't watch every single thing, can't take them dinner, can't spend the time with them that they want to? But yet they really love that person. They really care about them. They want to contribute to it, but they just have limitations.
Yeah, I think that's where the care coordination and staying connected. I had a friend who was a primary caregiver for her father, and she needed to try to coordinate the care for her father while keeping her 2 brothers who were out of town. The amount of time and effort it took after every physician appointment, here's the update, here's what happens next. It was really challenging for her. And it wasn't that her brothers didn't care, but it was really hard to stay up on top of all of those processes. And it was hard as that person to say, well, I have to do it anyways. Why am I keeping you all in the loop when it takes so much time and effort? So what we have built in, and what is coming into our roadmap, is to make sure that all of the information that is going in, not only preparing for your physician appointment, but also the action plan, that's all curated in one spot. So now these brothers be able to just go in and see all of that information. So now somebody isn't typing that all up, because just like I mentioned, all of those things like your advanced directives can be uploaded. Think about that visit summary from the physician. Now that is uploaded, and all of those systems of
Oh,
action that Arlo can create are coming out of that visit summary from the physician. So now that brother who maybe can't go pick up the pharmacy process because they're out of town, they can help support dad in another way because they see all of the things that need to change based on that physician appointment. So they are more close to the information because the information is right in the app that they are a part of, and it's updated automatically.
well, I can see the advantages to that. So, for example, when we leave the doctor's office, then I've got the recap, and then I go home and I type it out to all my family members in our chat
Oh,
group. But you're absolutely right. If I could just put it in Arlo, everybody could look at it. Everybody can form their own opinions, say whatever they want to say, right? And we have
yeah,
some family members who think they are doctors themselves, so they can make their own opinions and everybody can see what medicine she's taking and when her next appointment is. That would be a definite advantage I can see. And not only that, give comfort to the family members who can't be there and don't want to be left out.
that's right. The other thing, and that's a big time saver,
Yeah,
because what
huge.
most caregivers don't have is extra time. So just by uploading that document and then the information is available to five siblings, that makes a big difference. So all you have to do is add that circle member to your circle of care, and
Yeah,
information is transmitted and care is coordinated. So just by uploading one document, it's really helpful. Um, the other thing that I wanted to mention in terms of communication, what we found through many interviews is while technology is widely available among older adults, and I think that's a misconception, is that older adults don't have access to technology. We know that that's disputed. AARP has certainly put out there how many pieces of devices older adults have. Does your mother have a cell phone available to her,
she does.
or
Uh-huh.
iPad? At 106, she is one of those people who can dispel many people's misconceptions. So I love that. But what we have found is that there's some technical questions that people don't always have the information to. So we have built in technology support, if you will, right into Arlo. So not only do we have a button like ask questions, because people were asking, like, how do I change the batteries on my garage door opener? Like, I don't know how to do that, but now I can ask Arlo how to do that. Or how do I FaceTime my grandson? Like, those are
Oh,
important questions. Whether I have an iPhone or an Android, you can just ask Arlo. So Arlo will physically walk you through how to do that with a voice versus going to Google. So those types of technology questions can help engage in communication where maybe people haven't been able to take the opportunity to FaceTime people. And that just opens a whole opportunity of communication enhancement
it
for
does.
family members who are out of town.
So that's possible through Arlo,
It is possible through
the
Arlo.
visual communication with each
Not
other.
through Arlo, but Arlo's technology capabilities will help you use your phone or
Okay,
iPad
we'll teach you how to
because it
use
can
it.
walk you through that
I see
because
that.
of Arlo's capabilities.
I see that. All right. But it's interesting that you bring this up because I was with her yesterday and a lady came running down the hall and said, "Oh, I need somebody who knows tech." And I said, "Well, I mean, maybe I know tech. What are you looking for?" "Oh, I'm getting all these calls from someone and I need to block them from my phone." So she was looking for someone who could, she knew enough, but she knew
Yes,
she needed some further help. So um, it's
perfect
interesting
example.
because one of the questions I have here is that, we know that everybody's hearing a lot about AI. And honestly, a lot of seniors that I work with are skeptical about it right now because they are, think of the older person, be there 72 or 92, who say, I don't want a computer making my decisions for me. So how do you answer that question
Yeah, I
or
think
that
that's
complaint?
I think technology is good to be initially skeptical of, but I think it's important to know the way in which Arlo was built and that the information that we are using. So one of the most important things is that if you go to ChatGPT, for example, ChatGPT uses the information that you're entering into it to help train and improve its learning model.
Yeah.
So it's rather public for the information that you do. It's a great tool. But if you upload some of those documents, those you just know are at risk to be used for future models. With Arlo, the information that we are using it is just contained to Arlo. So we're not using our information to learn and train anything else. It is purposely built for Arlo. The other thing, oh, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
So for Arlo, we also are using we have very purposely designed clinical information that we're gathering recommendations from. We also do not want to make any medical decisions. We will just
No.
give insights for. So anytime you ask Arlo, and as an example, like what medication should I use, it will tell you you should go and talk to your physician or your pharmacist. So we don't want to be part of any medical decisions, but it will give you some ideas of we recognize you are taking medications that could put you at risk for dizziness. If maybe that's why you're dizzy, you should talk to your physician because maybe
Okay.
that's why you're getting dizzy in the morning. But it will also say, here's some other things that could be making you dizzy.
Okay.
So
All
it's
right.
more like
I
a
understand.
differential diagnosis than, differential than an actual recommendation and a
Exactly.
strong decision.
Exactly. And might ask, like, have you taken your medicine today? For
That's
example.
right.
Is that why
Medication
you're
adherence.
dizzy?
That's right. Medication adherence is one of the biggest things that send people to the emergency room and get admitted to the hospital. And that happens oftentimes because you're just not creating consistency in taking it. So by having all of your medications in and getting a reminder to take them all at your fingertips because your phone is right with you, we anticipate medication compliance to be significant through Arlo.
So one of the things that I've heard you talk about or I see is daily disciplines. I see that term. So my mom, for example, lives independently. Small things she does every day. She believes those are the reason why she's still alive. Maybe they are. And Arlo seems built on that same idea. So tell me about that. What does research say about the compounding effect of daily disciplines? And how does that apply to what you're doing?
So what we have looked at is the age-friendly process that is established by the John Hartford Foundation, and it's the four M's: what matters to you, mentation, mobility, and medication. So those are the four M's. That's our clinical framework, which doesn't mean much to anybody. It's not visible to anybody in the once you're in the app, but it's important to know that it has been purposely built. And those daily habits, why I mentioned that, is we ask in the very beginning, what's important to you? So if you tell us that these are the things that are important to you from a habit perspective, so if walking is important or it is that you want to spend time with your grandchildren, anything that you do throughout the app, we remind you of your why and what matters
Sure.
so that you will have better consistency of compliance with that process, for example. So, those are things that we have built in purposely to that process. So, all of the Arlo design is based on a lot of those principles. So, if you want to be more mobile, we will put that ask Arla will immediately ask you, would you like me to remind you to take that walk that you've asked for? Remember, and if you miss it, it'll say, I thought you wanted to make sure that you want to spend more time with
Right.
your
Yeah.
grandchildren and get down on the ground with them. All of that, it circles back. That thread is pulled throughout the conversation.
Right. What can I do to help you get out and get your walk today?
That's
Right.
right. Would you like a friend to come with you? Which friends would you like me to put on the calendar to remind you tomorrow?
Let's talk about the loneliness epidemic. One of the most heartbreaking things that I encounter, and I seriously do, and I feel so bad. I just wish I could take all these people and just hug them and spend time with them. The Surgeon General is even calling it a public health crisis. So, how does, and we've talked about some of these things, but how does technology like Arlo, when it's a computer based thing and it doesn't feel like there's a human there, how does it actually address something that is fundamentally a human social problem?
So, technology should be used not to replace human interaction, but to enhance it. So, it should be an enabler, not a replacement for sure. With Arlo, what it does is use that sentiment analysis because there's that daily communication from the end user, and it establishes that pattern where not only are we asking and checking in on what somebody's mood is and their energy level, but you can also start to tell through that sentiment the words that they're using in their conversation. And
Oh,
Arlo can then start to say whether they're we're asking outcome questions on loneliness first off. So between the loneliness outcome questions that we're asking, as well as mood, as well as the sentiment, the same process follows. We are putting in place systems of action and then plans to make sure that that loneliness is addressed. We have future roadmap processes that I'm not really allowed to talk about, but I'm excited for what's coming next within Arlo to make sure that we have better community and better connection. But Arlo is about making sure that we can have that connection within that circle of care, as well as what's important to you. So if you've said you want hobbies, it will ask if art's important to you and you're lonely. Arlo will pull those two things together and say, I noticed there's an art show next week. I don't have transportation. Would you like me to ask your daughter to put that on the calendar for you? Or which friend would you like me to connect you with? Would you like to put the phone call on next week so that you can talk about going to the art show? It's that smart to pull all of that together.
gosh. So what you're saying is that what I'm hearing you say is that if depending on how they're talking, then Arlo can say, I see that they're lonely because they're either using words or they're responding to things in a certain way. And then it automatically goes into this connection mode, so to speak.
That's right. It will use
That's,
the words they're using and then nudge them through that process. All of that said, the user has to participate. If you
yes.
stop talking and they don't move forward with it, it's hard to get to that next step. But if they have a circle of care member, so if their daughter's on there, then we can make sure that the daughter has that nudge to say, Mom hasn't engaged for 2 days. Not a red alert, but just know Mom hasn't connected. You may want to reach out to her.
We know that one of the other things that's really important, that's in the lives of all seniors who end up in an assisted living community or in some other kind of a care community is that because of the fall, right? And there's at some
That's
point in
right.
time somebody falls and it often then can't be undone. So how does our law address fall prevention? What can it do to help so that either we can prevent it or if we see someone maybe is a little bit unsure of themselves, that
Mm-hmm.
they can alarm the loved one and say, I noticed this today.
It's a great question. And safety is certainly one of our important criteria, and making sure that somebody stays independent. Because the further we can get ahead of that fall, and as you probably know, that hip fracture can really put somebody at risk once you have a fall to very serious complications. So the more that we can prevent that fall from happening, the better. So when somebody starts that conversation of, I don't feel steady, I'm not, one of the questions we ask is, how comfortable are you going outside of the house? We also ask, how many falls have you had within this past 2 weeks, past year? So we're starting to ask those questions very early in the onboarding process so that we can then push out information that supports them with fall prevention. So Arlo will take them through not only an overall house assessment, which can be overwhelming to just take all at once, but room by room. So it can do that for them. It can also engage a care circle of care member as well. You can also look at shoe wear. Many people don't know that hearing is part of fall prevention. So it will ask them
No, they
questions.
don't. They don't. And so let's talk for our viewers and our listeners. How is hearing a part of fall prevention?
Well, hearing is also part of the vestibular system, so that can help impact your balance. But just by not having, if your hearing isn't acute and you have a cat that you live with and you don't hear the cat scurrying or the dog scurrying, that can
Oh,
also impact your falling. So there's, multiple ways that your hearing can impact you. Don't hear that child running, the grandchild running
oh,
through. So there's a few different ways that that can happen.
of
So
course.
we're looking at shoe wear as well. So I mean, all of those things impact fall prevention, the strength in your legs and your core. So it can take that person not all at once because that would take a while, but through a multi-step process. And it not, doesn't feel clinical. This is not a clinical app whatsoever, but it's just walking people through some daily activities, some moments of time to build up habits to ensure that they can live longer, fuller, independent lives at their own pace. But
Right.
if they identify some risks, then it will help make sure that they get systems in place, taking the carpets up, putting night lights in the pathways, in the between the bedroom and the bathroom, handrails in place, like
Yes.
sturdy armrest on the chair so they can get up more steady.
Yep.
To the point of calling out a risk based on all of these things, you probably shouldn't go up the steps unless you have somebody supporting you. It will
Absolutely.
give that type of guidance as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about Arlo. Where do you feel you have not accomplished yet that you hope to accomplish? What are your big dreams? 10 million people is a great goal. What is it that you're still hoping to accomplish?
We have a roadmap that is miles long, as your
I'm sure
roadmap
you
is
do.
all the things that you have yet to build. Arlo, built as today, has a lot to support older adults, the caregivers, and also the employers, because we know that for caregiving, so many people, 70%, or there's 1 in 4 people that are a caregiver, 70% are still working. That's a lot of people that are still trying to manage caregiving and work. So we want to make sure that we are really providing employers with a really strong benefit so that they can provide that to their employees.
Isn't that the elephant in the room really, is the cost of caregiving, and especially to employers. People don't even think about that, but how much time we spend, for example, here in my own time today, worrying about my mom picking up a phone call, having to go take someone to a doctor's appointment. That's it's a huge
Yes.
impact on the economy.
So they say that the average caregiver costs the employer about $5,600 in productivity each year. That's significant.
Mm.
And they miss 1.2 days of work per month. So that takes time away from work. And it's not just affecting the employee, but the team that they work with. And that is also causing the caregiver. You talked about guilt before, but there's a more stress, one more thing for them to worry about while they're trying to be, typically they are mid-career, have a, probably an important role that they've really worked hard to earn. It's a challenge for not only the employee, but the employer who has a lot of demands on them themselves. So we see absenteeism, presenteeism, burnout, retention challenges, and Arlo can really help support that because many employers have support right now. They might have FMLA or crisis support, but what they don't have is everything we've talked about is the daily support for the care coordination, everything that Arlo offers to help reduce that stress and burnout on a daily basis, not just when the floor drops out and there's a fall. So
Correct.
really excited to impact many more employers with the support that Arlo can provide. Not only are we impacting the employers, but we recognize that that's the caregivers who are doing all of the hard work.
And again, back to the thing we talked about at the beginning is, when you go on Family Leave Act because you have a baby, that baby's gonna be 6 weeks old in 6 weeks, right? But
That's
for us, in this situation and the impact that it has on the adult child or whoever we are, caregiver, let's call them, the money that we lose when we leave our work and we leave on an unpaid status, which is fair, not criticizing the employer, but
that's right.
all the impact on the employer for the lost productivity, the employee for the lost productivity, it's huge, and somehow, that certainly needs to be dealt with.
It is a challenge. It's typically 4 to 5 years, but you are certainly on the other end of that spectrum of what could be as well. People are eating into their own retirement to support caregiving. And right now, there's such an invisible workforce. Many are not even comfortable talking about caregiving because child caregiving is a very open topic, and many employers have that support right now. But older adult caregiving isn't quite as openly referenced and supported in the workforce. So when you're asking me what do I hope I'm anxious to do, I would say that's probably number one is making sure that we can see this as something that is more standard in the employer network, and we're anxious to be that benefit program that employers look to, so that caregiving is not seen as a disruption and it is seen as something that can be supported through Arlo.
Do you think there's a possibility that Arlo could be provided for or paid for by an employer, exchange for, so to speak, the benefit of having some of these things taken care of so that it's not so much unknown? Would it be of a benefit at all?
Yes, so that is something that we are offering currently. It'll help improve the productivity, improve employee well-being, which we know is an important aspect of an employer, as well as really ensure that there's workforce stability. If you can retain that employee, it's much easier to retain a really strong employee than to go out and look for a new one and hire, train. All of that is expensive as well. Let's keep the good ones through making sure that you can support them.
And we could go on with this probably for another hour because you could also consider all of the people who I've interviewed who have left their jobs, permanently left their jobs or temporarily because they had to move to another state to take care of a family member. So it's not only just a few hours a day or I need to run my mom to the doctor, but this is where you actually had to leave your position. And again, the loss to the employer and the employee. Michelle, thank you so much. And I really mean this genuinely. I've wanted to have you on our show. I'm so excited and thank you so much. You gave our listeners certainly something that they don't often get, which is what it means to age well, not just a list of products and not just another app, because obviously Arlo is about to be something, is already and will continue to grow and be something even much better and more impactful on the older adults and their families. So we want to be sure that everybody knows how to find Arlo. It's ARLOW, Arlo.ai. You can download the app. So if you're navigating a big decision, whether it's the right time to downsize, whether your parent can stay safe at home, where to turn when things feel overwhelming, that's why I'm here. And that's why we have guests like Michelle at from Arlo AI on our show with over 35 years and more between the two of us. Michelle, people like Michelle and I, we're here to be your resource. My mom is just proof that you can live to be older and have a lovely and fun life, that thriving at age is always possible. And Arlo AI is a tool to help you achieve that. So stay curious, stay connected, stay ageless, and always be ageless. And thank you very much, Michelle Bianco, for being our guest today on Always Ageless.
Thank you. I wish you well.
Thank you.